Okay, so my phone went off and everything just stopped. So here we go. I left off with Magister. Magister means teacher. Notice that the E disappears. Okay, and the only way you're going to know if that is happening with any particular noun is by memorizing your genitive singular. That's the only way. Okay, there's nothing that I know of that's going to tell you, oh, in these situations, you keep the E, in these situations you don't. It's just a memorization thing. So, this is a male teacher because we're talking about a masculine. There is a word for female teacher that falls into the first declension, but since we're doing second declension, we're talking about a male teacher. All right. So, nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative. My husband would like to say hi.
Record right in front of the door. Part of proper filmmanship is setting up your
studio.
In your studio, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
if you go outside, there's a lot better stuff to have in the background. You
like
could maybe
rain.
get like a dog peeing. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Cat sifting through your rock litter box.
Yeah. The rabbits eating my garden. As if my kids weren't entertaining enough. All right, here we go. So we're going to find our stem by taking the I off, okay? So we are going to have, I'm going to write it up here. Okay, magistr. It's hard to do without any letter following the R, but it's M-A-G-I-S-T-R. Okay, whatever your endings are going to be. So here we go. Magister, magistri. Sing it out. Magistro, magistrum, magistro. If you said stro, good for you. Magistri. This is going to be a long one. Magistrorum. Magistris. Magistros. That wasn't a very good S. Magistris. Okay. So there you have it. Again, sometimes the E's go away in the ER second declension, sometimes they don't. Okay? But they're all second declension, and second declension is masculine or neuter. Let's hit the homework. I'm hoping I remember which word that I asked you to do. You're allowed to correct me in the comment box if I don't remember correctly. I believe I gave you the word for book, which is an ER ending second declension that loses the E. Remember, we get library. Okay, it's not library, it's library. Okay, so liber, libri. This is going to follow the same pattern as magister did. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's do it. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative. Okay, here we go. So this is your word for book. All right. Nominative, liber. Genitive, oh my goodness, libri. Libro, librum, libro, libri, librorum, libris, libros, libris. Okay? Try to dot my I's so that everybody knows that they're I's and not L's or whatever. So that was the spoiler if you didn't do the homework from the last video. If you did, those are the answers that you should have gotten if I gave you the word for book. If I didn't, if I gave you the word for child, it's the same word, but you keep the E. The E doesn't go anywhere, okay? And you do the same thing you just did here, except for all of the forms are going to have that E from over here still in them. You can correct me if I didn't remember which word I gave you correctly. Okay. Let's do third conjugation. Okay. So we talked about first conjugation, which had a lot of A's in it, okay? We talked about second conjugation, which had a really strong E in it. This is third conjugation. Third conjugation has the infinitive with the ERE ending, but the E at the beginning of the infinitive ending is a weak E. So it doesn't stick around. In fact, it changes as you conjugate the verb. So we are going to do cado, cadera, which means to fall. Okay, we get words like cascade. Okay, if you think of a cascade, it's something that's falling. Cascade of water, whatever. Okay, so first person, second person, third person, and we have singular and we have plural. Okay, now we're still going to find our stem the same way we did with our other two conjugations. Nothing changed. Okay, remember we have the first person singular, I fall. This next principal part is cadera, which means to fall. It's your infinitive, okay? So we're going to take the RE off the end, okay? And this is our stem. All right? Now, like I said, this E right here is a very weak E. It's a short E, okay? So it's not going to stick around. As you can see, it's absent in the first person singular. It's cado. It's not cadeo or anything like that. Okay, and this E is not only going to disappear, but it's going to do a little metamorphosis as we conjugate this verb. So the first person singular, as you should already know, is cado, because it's up there. All right. So let's write down cod, okay? And our second person singular ending is is, codis, okay? And then we have codit, codimus, coditis, and this is the weird one. This is the one that is just whatever it is. Cadunt. Okay, I know. It can't all be nice, all right? This can't all be second conjugation. So, I fall, you fall, he, she, it falls, we fall, y'all fall, they fall. Or, if we're wanting to be really, really careful, we can say, I am falling, you are falling, he, she, it is falling, we are falling, y'all are falling, they are falling. You can also do the emphatic, I do fall, you do fall, he, she, it does fall. Okay? So that's third conjugation. You will need to know how to tell the difference between a third conjugation and a second conjugation. Looking at the infinitive isn't enough. Okay, if you get an infinitive with an ERE, you have two possibilities. Okay, you have second and you have third. All right. So what you need to take away in order to tell the difference between second and third conjugation is the lack of E right here. When it's just an O and there's no E in the first person singular, you know it's third, okay? This is cado. It's not cadeo. If it was cadeo, it would be something like a second conjugation. I don't think that cadeo is a Latin word. I've never heard of it. Okay? So it's cado. So it's really important, really, really important that you know how to tell the difference when you're looking at a verb. If you're a teacher or somebody gives you a verb to conjugate, you need to know how to tell the difference. Okay, this is one huge thing that you can do. Some books will give you a breve right there. It looks like a smiley face with no eyes, okay? And that tells you that that E is short, which tells you that it's third conjugation and not second, because if it was second conjugation, there would just be a line. It's called a macron over the E, and that would tell you it's long, okay? So, there is a rundown of your third conjugation. Like I said, you're still finding your stem the same way. The E, it's kind of a worthless letter to have at the end of your stem because it doesn't stick around. You don't see it anywhere in the conjugation, but it is part of your stem, so you do need to know it. And it does a little disappearing act, and then it comes back as different vowels. And it's just something that you have to accept and work through. There's no easy out for this. So that is your third conjugation. All right. Now we also, in third conjugation, have IO third. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more fun than what you're doing right now, I don't want to use it. These markers are killing me anyway. Okay. We're going to do the word for to do or to make. These are called IO thirds. Facio, facere. Okay. This is to do or to make. We get words like factory from this, okay? To do or to make. So, here we have a whole new set of fun to get through. We have an IO rather than just an O, but we still have our ERE ending in our infinitive, okay? So there are a lot of these, so you do need to know them because they're everywhere. And it's really important that you learn your first person singular and the infinitive, because when we get to fourth conjugation, you're going to see some things that are eerily similar, and you're going to want to know, is this a third or is this a fourth? Because it makes a difference how you do different tenses and stuff like that. So make sure you know, okay? So we're going to find our stem. That short E, again, is not going to be very helpful. It's just there to do little magic tricks for you. That's all it's there for. I didn't write the language. I just teach it. Okay. So we know that the first person singular is facio. Okay. Now, a lot of this is going to look really, really nice and familiar to you. Okay. So there is some comfort I can offer you. What do you think the ending on this is going to be? In cado, it was IS. Just take a wild stab at this one. What do you think? It's IS again. Okay? How about this one? If you think back to cado, what was it? Third person singular? Yeah. My more vulgar students really liked that word. Junior high students and high school students with foul mouths. Okay, so here we go. Facimus, okay. Facitus. Here's a difference, okay. Here is the difference between conjugating an IO third and a regular third. Right here. Faciunt. Remember, it was cadunt. Now it's faciunt. You have an I. Okay? I know. At least it's pretty predictable. I mean, you're keeping the I all the way through, aren't you? So, a little nicer. This is a big family. You need to know them. And you can call these IO thirds. You can also call them 3-4, okay? The reason they call them 3-4 is because they have elements of fourth conjugation in them and they have elements of third conjugation in them. When you get to fourth conjugation, you'll understand what I'm talking about. But for now, just take my word for it, because that's what they pay me the big bucks for. All right, so now you have first conjugation, second conjugation, third conjugation, both the IO thirds and the regular thirds. You are on your way in the present tense. We have a lot more to do, but be encouraged by the progress, okay? Let's do something a little different for homework. I am going to give you some basic Latin sentences with a subject and a verb, and I want you to translate them into English, good English. Now, I'm going to go over a couple things with you in order to make this journey a little bit nicer for you, because the first time you start to translate Latin into English, it can be kind of irritating. The first time I sat down to translate a paragraph in Latin, it was my first semester in Latin in college, and it was a sanitized for your protection version of Caesar. It was always Caesar in this book that we learned out of. It was always Caesar. It wasn't ever anything else, just Caesar. So anyway, I sat down and I got straight A's. I had no problems doing the grammar, none. It was easy for me. The vocab, everything, I had no problems. So I sat down with this paragraph to translate, and all of a sudden it was like I couldn't put it all together. And I sat there for hours that night trying to solve the mystery of how to translate all of this. Like, I knew the words, I knew what they meant, but how do you piece it all together? And I took it to my professor. He was actually a teaching assistant, but I call him a professor just for simplicity. And I told him what I was up against. And he gave me some really good advice that I have carried with me these 20 years of learning and teaching this language. So I'm going to impart the little bit of wisdom I have onto you, and I'm going to give you some simple subject-verb sentences. And after that, we're going to start moving into subject-verb direct object. And we're going to talk about what that is going to involve, okay? That will probably... I said our next video was going to be third declension, so I think the next video is going to be split between doing some sentences and doing third declension. Okay, here we go. This is going to be your homework / a little helpful hint. Okay, I'm only going to give you a couple sentences because I don't believe in making it infinitely tedious and painful. A little dab will do ya, okay? A little practice every day is better than hours of practice once a week, okay? If you can spend 10 minutes a day learning something, whether it's a conjugation or it's some vocabulary, you'll get a lot farther doing that than you will cramming once a week or once every several days or something. So when you're translating, you have to remember that Latin does not follow English word order, okay? For these sentences, it's going to feel like it's following following English word order, but when we get a little bit farther along, you're going to realize that that theory completely falls apart. The verb tends to come at the end of the sentence in Latin. And like I said, if we have a subject-verb sentence, then it's going to feel like English word order. But the verb can come anywhere. It tends to come at the end, but it doesn't have to. In fact, your subject doesn't have to come at the beginning, okay? So you have to forget your English word order. Okay, you have to forget that. You can't let that get in your way. When you're translating, find your verb. And find it first. Look in your sentence, find your verb. And then parse your verb. Okay? So if I give you something like monet, okay, it means they advise. You need to be able to tell me person, number, tense, mood, voice, okay? So the person is third person. The number is plural, okay? The tense is present. The mood is indicative. The voice is active, okay? So you need to be able to do that, because if you know that about your verb, then finding your subject is going to be easier. You're not going to be wondering if every single one of these nouns can be your subject. It's going to narrow it down. If you have a singular verb, your subject has to be singular, okay? If it's he, she, or it, you are looking for a singular subject. All right, so any plural nouns in the sentence can't possibly be your subject. Same thing in English. If I say, we are going to the store, okay, are is plural because we is plural. It's called subject-verb agreement. You don't want to say, we is going to the store, unless you really want to sound like a hick, okay? Same thing in Latin. Okay, there's subject-verb agreement. The number has to match between the subject and the verb. All right? And the person has to match. Notice that even in English, when you conjugate verbs, some verbs have an S, some verbs don't. Mom. This is my daughter. She's here to say hi. Mom. You're going to have to wait for a minute. Okay. So, parse your verb. Next, find your subject. And remember that your subject is going to be in the nominative case. That also narrows it down. So if you have a noun that is in the dative or in the accusative, you know it's not going to be your subject. Okay? So here is your exercise in terror for the next time. And I will make sure that Mommy, I write down. I write down. Can I do this? Mommy, can I do this? You're gonna have to wait. I'll make sure I write down what sentences I give you so that I am absolutely 100% positive what I asked you to do, in case I got it wrong the last time, which I don't think I did. But all right, so here we go. We are going to do the farmer gives. I'm going to give you, no ma'am, I'm going to give you your vocabulary. There is no word in Latin for the. Absolutely not. There's no word for as in a car, a bus, anything like that. There's none of that. They don't have articles. This is not Greek. If you were in Greek, it would be a different story, but you're not. You're in Latin. So there's no word for the. So just forget that it's there in English and deal with farmer and gives. Your word for farmer is agricola, agricolae. Your word for to give is do, dare. Okay? The other sentence I'm going to have you do is the pirate sails. Let's do it. We can do sails. Okay? Remember, there's no word for the. Pirate is pirata, piratai. Sails is na we go, na we gare. I gave you first conjugation verbs because those are probably going to be your best bet for right now. I will, in the very near future, be torturing you with other conjugations, but for now we're going to stick with what we're most familiar with, hopefully. Hopefully you're most familiar with that. So remember, no word for the. Don't bother. Okay? Figure out what your verb is. Figure out what your... Figure out what your subject is. And write them down. Okay? And then the other thing I'm going to have you do is work from Latin into English. Okay?
Mama, I didn't do it for
So, here we go. I'm going to give you... Oh, I'll write it right here. Okay? That's your other word, or that's your other sentence. All right? I'm going to assume that based on the similarities between the English and the Latin word here that you know what poeta means. It's also in my other video. If you don't know what it means, my other video covers it. Sto, stare, we haven't hit in my videos, and I'm not going to assume that you know it. So sto, stare means to stand. Okay? You can kind of imagine if you want to, and I believe that our word stand comes from Latin. But anyway, you can kind of see a form of sto, stare coming out in the English word stand. It might help you remember it. So, there you go. Latin to English, English into Latin. I consider doing English into Latin one of the most important skills you can possibly have, especially if you want to get really comfortable with this stuff. So, next time we'll hit third declension. We'll hit the answers for these, and we will keep plugging and chugging. I'll see you next time.